late 70s and mid-80s, you grew up in a world that no longer exists, and then had to become an adult in one that arrived almost overnight. You're not quite Gen X, shaped entirely in analog independence, but you're not truly millennial either, raised inside the architecture of the internet. You came of age in the seam between them, and living in a seam has a psychological cost, because identity usually forms from belonging to a place, a culture, a generation. But you were always slightly out of sync with both. Too young for the cynicism of Gen X, too analog for the native fluency of millennials. So you learned something subtle, how to adapt without fully identifying, how to move between worlds without claiming either one. You remember rewinding tapes with a pencil. You also remember your first email address feeling like a doorway into the future. Both memories are equally yours, and that dual memory of before and after shapes how you see change, risk, and time itself. You didn't miss the future, and you didn't lose the past. You were simply born at the hinge of history, the moment when one world closed softly and another began loading. Before algorithms learned your preferences, boredom was a daily landscape you had to cross on your own. There were long afternoons with nothing scheduled, nothing streaming, nothing glowing in your hand, no instant entertainment waiting to dissolve the silence. If you were a child then, boredom wasn't a failure of stimulation. It was the default state of being. So you invented things. You turned sticks into swords, sidewalks into racetracks, empty rooms into entire worlds. You learned, without realizing it, how to generate experience from imagination alone. Psychologists today would call this the default mode of the brain, the network that activates when attention turns inward, when the mind wanders, recombines, creates. But for you, it was simply Tuesday. You also learned to wait, for photos to be developed, for a favorite song to come on the radio, for a friend to show up at the agreed time, because once you left the house, you were unreachable. Waiting wasn't frustrating, it was normal. And in that waiting, something important formed, the muscle of delayed gratification, the quiet tolerance for uncertainty, the understanding that not everything arrives on demand. Your social world was physical, immediate, and unscripted. Conflict happened face to face. Tone, posture, and silence carried meaning long before text stripped them away. You learned how to read a room before you ever read a thread. You learned repair after friction, not escape after discomfort. And then there was solitude, not loneliness, but the simple condition of being alone with your thoughts. No notifications punctured the quiet. No infinite scroll replaced reflection. Your mind had space to echo. That childhood, now nearly extinct, left you with something rare, the capacity to tolerate stillness without panic, to imagine without input, to exist briefly, unentertained and unobserved. You are among the last adults whose inner life formed in that analog silence, before attention became a commodity and before boredom was engineered away. Then, just as you were becoming yourself, the world changed, not gradually, not across generations, but right in the middle of your adolescence, that fragile window when identity is still soft, still forming, still asking, who am I becoming? 1 year, connection meant a phone tethered to a wall. A few years later, it meant a glowing portal humming in the corner of the room, the internet arriving with the shrill song of a 56K modem. You were old enough to remember the before, young enough to master the after. And that combination created something psychologically rare, a kind of technological bilingualism. You learned the language of analog presence, eye contact, pauses, physical spaces,
4 minutes.
shared silence. And then you learned the language of digital mediation.
Is it on now?
Usernames, typed tone, curated selves, connection without...
Let's see here. I forget what day she's coming back to lead her group. Who?
The one who was in here last week that works for HR.
Cassidy.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I see her around, I can ask her, because we stay in the same building.
Okay.
I'm
I
sure
think
it's
it
on
might-
Thursday.
It's probably on Thursday. I was gonna say I might just give you guys time to work on your papers today, honestly.
That's fine with
If
me.
that's okay. Yeah. I'm noticing too many things. I'm taking holds off. We're doing the horticulture therapy grant. There's something else. But how's your day going so far?
My day is going good. It feels
Crazy?
good outside, yeah. Definitely feels great outside.
The other thing I was going to do, but I think you've already seen this, was the presentation about hospice. Because when I gave it Friday, it didn't record it. And I wanted to do the AI notes. And then people use it to organize, copy edit, and then begin a publication. So now we had terrible internet. It never recorded. So now I want to present it again, but I know I've already, you might have been the only one here that day.
I think Konami again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So,
It's us too.
right, I don't want to present it to you again. Is that, you might as well be working on your paper if that's the case.
Thank you.
Yes, for sure. Are you doing any summer employment?
I'm trying.